Good morning and welcome to Lifestyle Barbecue's demonstration of our Christmas ham. Okay, so our ham's been prepped, we've made our glaze. The glaze has come to a simmer and it's starting to thicken. For this first glaze, it doesn't matter that the glaze itself is just a little bit watery. That will actually get thicker as we cook. Now I do the first glaze quite thoroughly, just going all around the ham and letting the glaze just soak into the fat. We'll glaze this ham probably every 30 minutes and keep our glaze on a very low heat on the wok burner, keeping an eye on it, possibly adding a little bit more flavour, balancing out the flavours as it intensifies on the heat. So just popping that on. A lot of the glaze will drip down in the roasting pan. That's fine because that can be used to roast beautiful sweet potato or pumpkin. So this teams up really beautifully with an orange vegetable. So just to get it in the oven, what we're going to do is render that fat a little bit, just with that little bit of glaze so it starts to golden. Now the barbecue, heat it up to about 260. Ideally you want it between 220 and 260 when you pop it in there so that we can brown the ham. Okay, after basting the ham, I've come back to the barbecue, and by leaving the left and the far right burners on, it's not quite giving me enough heat at this stage. So very quickly, I can just simply put on this second burner, raise the heat for about 5 minutes. So it's up to around 240. That's ideally how I'd like it to brown the fat. And then we'll drop this burner back and cook with the indirect heat. Now, if you do choose a big ham, as we've done today for this demonstration, make sure that you take the heat trays, the brackets, from the back of the barbecue. They simply just lift off. That way you'll have enough room for your extra big ham when you close the hood. Okay, the barbecue is now on 260 degrees Celsius. So we're going to pop our ham in. It's going to lift the hood. It's not hot, so it's easy to handle. And we're going to put it into the centre, delicately, of the barbecue. We're going to shut the hood. It's been on for about 5 minutes. The barbecue is sitting now at about 300. So I'm going to take that back. But considering that, you need to watch your temperature at this stage to the ham. So the benefit and the beauty of a lifestyle barbecue is this glass panel. So we can see in without losing heat from the hood as to how that's browning. So I'm going to drop the heat of this barbecue back now by taking out the middle burner, keeping an eye on my heat. The other thing you need to keep an eye on is the glaze in the pan. You don't want it to burn because it can just take away from those beautiful flavours that you've already added to your ham. So to that, I'm just going to add a cup of water. Now that will cook down. It won't affect that pan if we want to use it for vegetables later on. It's to keep the moisture going through the ham and to prevent any burning. So we'll just shut the lid, check the temperature, perfect on 250. So the ham's been on for about 30 minutes. We're just going to give it another little glaze. So the idea of this first 30 minutes to an hour is to allow the ham to get a beautiful golden colour. Remember, you're not cooking the ham, you're just making it look pretty. Those little burnt bits there are fine. It's caramelised beautifully. And we're going to reduce the heat a little bit on that end of the barbecue and up it on this end so we can get the same caramelisation here. Once we get that brown caramelisation on top, we're going to actually, probably in about 30 minutes again, drop the barbecue down to let the flavours infuse, pierce the skin a little bit. Now the ham's been on for around 45 minutes, keeping in mind that the ham is cooked. So now it's caramelising beautifully. This is actually quite nice because a lot of people actually adore that dark blackened rind, and that's going to crisp up a little bit more as that fat renders. And over here you've got succulent fat, and that will start to crisp up during the cooking process as well. Mind you, it's not a cooking process. I really like to see it as a basting process. So therefore what we're going to do around this time is we're just going to stick a skewer into the ham randomly. So when we pour our glaze over in the next little while, it will seep into that ham as much as possible. So we've got those lovely, I can smell off the barbecue, the smell of the cloves, the cinnamon, the orange. So we'll grab our glaze from the wok burner and we'll just give it another glaze. You can pour a little bit of it on, trying not to lose a cinnamon stick in the process or a star anise, but if you do, don't worry, just adds to the flavour. And then we'll just shut the lid Leave it for another 30 minutes. And after that, we'll probably drop the heat. So the heat at the moment after lifting the lid, it will reduce. So just keep an eye on where it's coming back to. It comes back to heat very quickly. And that's the beauty of this appliance. Okay, the ham's been now on the barbecue for about an hour. The purpose of the foil is so that that lovely leg doesn't burn. So towards the end of the cooking process, we'll take that foil off, probably about 15 minutes before we take it off. But if we didn't, it would have ended up black from experience. We just want this side and this side on, just to let those flavours infuse. Look, somewhere between, it can be 30 minutes and 2 hours. If you drop the heat right back, you can just have it bubbling away there for a couple of hours. You're not going to dry the ham out because we're continuously adding water to this bottom tray. And that's something you need to check every time you open the hood. Might add a little bit more glaze just to make it even more delicious. Popping it into those cracks, glossing up this beautiful leg of pork. You can see it's drying out a little bit here, so we put a bit more glaze and it will just keep it nice and moist. Another piece of star anise just dropped out. But it's smelling really nice. We're towards the end of the ham process now, and we can tell so by having a look at it. It's beautifully golden, it's been glazed. We're just going to leave it on for a little while just to brown up this leg so it's uniform with the rest of the ham. But you don't necessarily have to do that. You could just leave the foil on there and grab it off now. So remember that we're not cooking it. So we're just going to give it a final glaze, leave it for about 15 minutes, and then it will be ready. Okay, we've taken our ham out of the barbecue. As you can see, it's been in there for about an hour and 45 minutes. We've let it cool down quite a bit and it looks absolutely fantastic, I think. Now, it's not perfect, so don't worry about it being perfect. This tray will clean up quite well. It will need a soak straight away, so just put it in some detergent and some warm water and let it soak overnight. The alternative is just to use a disposable tray if you don't want to do that little bit of cleaning on Boxing Day. Having said that though, this works really well and keeps the heat going through the ham. So you can see the top is mainly fat, so there are all sorts of ways of presenting this, so you can see how it works. You've got a layer of caramelised rendered fat, then another layer of fat, a bit like a pork belly if you're familiar with pork belly, and then you've got the lovely succulent ham underneath. So what I'd be inclined to do is to cut pieces like this so people can take those little pieces if they like fat, and then some lovely big slices of ham off the bone. Now, the ham can be served hot or cold. So if you get this in the oven at 6 o'clock in the morning and you have it ready from 8, don't worry, just cover it in foil and serve it cold. As an alternative, you can always cut a few slices off and pop some Glad wrap over the top, pop it in the microwave and have it hot. Now, the other thing that we're doing, remember that we were glazing this ham that we made at the beginning of this demonstration. So all I've done is I've taken the cinnamon quills out of the mixture, the star anise. So now I'm left with this beautiful glaze just with beautiful mustard seeds that will pop into people's mouths, and that can be served on the side and it's fine cold.